All right, so we are reading Emily Windsnap. This should be for Thursday, March 20th. What is today? Yeah, Thursday, March 20th. Okay. I'm reading off of my Kindle, which is on my screen. So I'm going to be reading at the screen. All right, so we're on page 31, chapter 3. I snuck out again that night. I couldn't keep away. I swam farther this time. The sea was grimy with oil and rubbish near the shore, and I wanted to explore the cleaner, deeper water farther out. Looking back across the harbor, Brightport looked so small, a cluster of low buildings, all huddled around a tiny horseshoe-shaped bay, a lighthouse at one end, a marina at the other. A hazy glow hovered over the town. Blurry, yellow street lamps shone, with the occasional white lights of cars of a car moving along between them. As I swam around the rocks at the end of the bay, the water became clearer and softer. It was like switching from grainy black and white film into color. The fat gray fish were replaced by stripy yellow and blue ones with floppy silver tails, long, thin green ones with spiky antennae, and angry mouths, orange ones with spotted black fins, all darting purposefully around me. Every now and then I swam across a shallow sandy stretch. Wispy little stick-like creatures as thin as paper wriggled along beneath me, almost see-through against the sand. Then the water would suddenly get colder and deeper as I went over a rocky part. I swished myself across these carefully. They were covered in prickly black sea urchins, and I wouldn't be thrilled to get one of those stuck on my tail. Soon the water got warmer again as I came to another shallow part. I was getting tired. I came up for fresh air and realized I was miles away from home, farther away than I'd ever been on my own. I tried to flick myself along, but my tail flapped lazily and I started to ache. Eventually, I made it to a big, smooth rock with a low shelf. I pulled myself out of the water, my tail resting on some pebbles in the sea. A minute later, it went numb. I wiggled my toes and shivered as I watched my legs come back. That part was still really creepy. Sitting back against a larger rock, I caught my breath. Then I heard something, like singing. But without words? The wet rock shimmered in the moonlight, and there was no one around. Had I imagined it? The water lapped against the pebbles, making them jangle as it sucked its breath away from the shore. There it was again, the singing. Where was it coming from? I clambered up a jagged rock and looked down the other side. That's when I saw her. I rubbed my eyes. Surely it couldn't be, but it was. It was a mermaid, a real one. The kind you read about in kids' stories. Long blonde hair all the way down her back, which she was brushing while she sang. She was perched on the edge of a rock, shuffling a bit, as though she were trying to get comfortable. Her tail was longer and thinner than mine, silvery green and shimmering in the moonlight. It flapped against the rock as she sang. She kept singing the same song. When she got to the end, she started again. A couple of times, she was in the middle of a really high part when she stopped and hit her tail with the brush. "Come on, Shauna," she said sharply. "Get it right." I stared for ages, opening and closing my mouth like a fish. I wanted to talk to her, but what exactly do you say to a singing mermaid perched on a rock in the middle of the night? Funnily enough, I've never had that come up before. In the end, I coughed gently, and she looked up immediately. "Oh," she said. She gaped open-mouthed at my legs for a second, and then, with a twist and a splash, she was gone. I picked my way back down the rocks to the water's edge. "Wait!" I shouted as she swam away from me. "I really wanted to talk to you." She turned in the water and looked back at me suspiciously. "I'm a mermaid too," I shouted. Yeah, right. With my skinny legs and my Speedo bathing suit, she'd really believe that. "Wait, I'll prove it." I jumped into the water and started swimming toward her. I still had that moment of panic when my legs stuck together and stiffened, but then they relaxed into their new shape, and I relaxed too, as I swished my tail and sped through the water. The mermaid was swimming away from me again, faster now. Hang on, I called. Watch. I waited for her to turn around, then dove under and flicked my tail upward. I waved it as high as I could. When I came back up, she was staring at me, as though she couldn't believe what she'd seen. I smiled, but she ducked her head under the water. Don't go, I called. But a second later, her tail was sticking up, not twisting around madly like mine did, more as if she were dancing or doing gymnastics. In the moonlight, her tail glinted like diamonds. When she came back up, I clapped, or tried to anyway. But I slipped back under when I lifted both arms out and got water up my nose. She was laughing as she swam toward me. I haven't seen you before, she said. How old are you? 12. Me too, but you're not at my school, are you? Brightport Junior High, I said. Just started. Oh. She looked worried and moved away from me again. What's wrong with that? It's just, I haven't heard of it. Is it a mermaid school? You go to mermaid school? The idea sounded like something out of a fairy tale, and even though I've totally grown out of fairy tales, I had to admit it sounded pretty cool. She folded her arms. How did she do that without sinking? And said quite sternly, And what's wrong with that? What kind of school do you expect me to go to? No, it sounds great, I said. I wish I did too. I found myself wanting to tell her everything. I mean, I haven't been a mermaid for long, or I didn't know I was, or something. My words jumbled and tumbled out of me. I've never even really been in the water. And then when I did get in, it happened, and I was scared. But I'm not now, and I wish I'd found out years ago. I looked up to see her staring at me as though I were something from outer space that had washed up on the beach. I stared back and tried folding my arms too. I found that if I kept flicking my tail a little, I could stay upright. So I flicked and folded and stared for a little while, and she did the same. Then I noticed the side of her mouth flutter a bit, and I felt a dimple below my left eye twitching. A second later, we were both laughing like hyenas. It's a simile. What are we laughing at? I said when I managed to catch my breath. I don't know, she answered, and we both burst out laughing again. What's your name? She said once we'd stopped laughing. I'm Shauna Silkfin. Emily, I said. Emily Windsnap. Shauna stopped smiling. Windsnap? Really? Why, what's wrong with that? Nothing, it's just... What? No, it's nothing. I thought I'd heard it before, but I guess I couldn't have. I must be thinking of something else. You haven't been around here before, have you? I laughed. A couple weeks ago. I'd never even been in a swimming pool. Shauna looked serious for a second. How did you do that thing just now? She asked. What thing? With your tail. You mean the handstand? You want me to do it again? No, I mean the other thing. She pointed underwater. How did you make it change? I don't know. It just happens. When I go in the water, my legs kind of disappear. I've never seen someone with legs before, not in real life. I've read about it. What's it like? What's it like having legs? Shauna nodded. Well, it's cool. You can walk and run and climb things or jump or skip. Shauna gazed at me as if I were speaking a foreign language. You can't do this with legs, she said as she dove under again. This time her tail twisted around and around, faster and faster, in an upside-down pirouette. So she's like spinning in the water. Water spun off as she turned, spraying tiny rainbow arcs over the surface. That was fantastic, I said, when she came back up again. We've been practicing it in diving and dance. We're doing a display at the Inter-Bay competition in a couple of weeks. This is the first time I've been in the squad. Diving and dance? Is that a class you take? I asked. a wish already forming in my mind. Yeah, she went on breathlessly. But last year, I was in the choir. Mrs. Highwave said that 5 fishermen were seen wandering aimlessly towards the rocks during my solo performance. Shauna smiled proudly. Her earlier shyness totally vanished. No one at Shiprock School has ever had that many before. So that's good, huh? Good, it's great. I want to be a siren when I grow up. I stared at her. So all that stuff in fairy tales about mermaids luring fishermen to watery graves, it's all true. Shauna shrugged. It's not like we want them to die. Not necessarily. Usually we just hypnotize them into changing their ways and then wipe their memories so they can move away and forget they saw us. Wipe their memories? Usually, yes. It's our best defense. Not everyone knows how to do it. Mainly just sirens and those close to the king. We just use it to stop them from stealing all of our fish or finding out about our world. She leaned in closer. Sometimes they fall in love. The mermaids and fishermen? Shauna nodded excitedly. There are loads of stories about it. It's totally illegal, but so romantic, isn't it? Well, I guess so. Is that why you were singing just now? Oh, that? No. I was practicing for beauty and deportment, she said, as if I totally would know what she was talking about. We've got a test tomorrow, and I can't get my posture right. You have to sit perfectly, tilt your head exactly right, and brush your hair in 100 smooth strokes. It's a pain in the gills trying to remember everything at once. She paused, and I guess it was my turn to say something. Yeah, I know what you mean, I said, hoping I sounded convincing. I came in first in last semester's final, but that was just hairbrushing. This is a whole package. It sounds really tough. B&D is my favorite subject, she went on. I wanted to be 7th grade hairbrush monitor, but Cynthia Smoothflick got it. She lowered her voice. But Mrs. Sharptail told me that if I do well in this test, maybe they'll give it to me in the spring. What was I meant to say to that? You think I'm goody-goody, don't you? She said, watching my face. She started swimming away again, just like everybody else does. No, of course not, I said. I struggled to find the right words. You're really interesting. You're pretty swishy, too, she said, and let herself float back. How come you're out in the middle of the night, anyway? I asked. These rocks are the best ones around for B&D, but you can't really come here in the daytime. It's too dangerous. She stuck a thumb toward the coast. I usually sneak out on Sunday nights, or Wednesdays. Mom's always out like a tide by 9 o'clock on Sunday. She likes to be fresh for the week ahead. And she has her aquarobics on Wednesday and always sleeps more soundly after that. Dad sleeps like a whale every night, Shauna laughed. Anyway, I'm glad I came tonight. I smiled. Me too. The moon had moved around and was shining down on me, a tiny chink missing from its side. But I have to get going soon, I added, yawning. Shauna frowned. Are you going to come back some other time? Yeah, I'd like that. She might be a bit strange, but she was a mermaid, the only one I'd ever met. She was like me. When? Wednesday? Great, I grinned. And good luck on your test. Thanks, she shouted, and with a flick of her tail, she was gone. As I swam around Brightport Harbor in the darkness, the beam from the lighthouse flashed steady rays across the water. I stopped for a moment to watch. Each beam slowly scanned the water before disappearing around the back of the lighthouse. It was almost hypnotic. A large ship silently made its way across the horizon, its silhouette briefly visible with each slow beam of light. But then I noticed something else. Someone was standing on the rocks at the bottom of the lighthouse. Mr. Beeston? What was he doing? He seemed to be looking out at the horizon, following the ship's progress. I ducked under the water as another beam came around. What if he'd seen me? I stayed underwater until the light had passed. When I came up, I looked back at the lighthouse. There was no one there. And then the light went off. I waited. It didn't come back on. I tried to imagine what it was like inside. Just Mr. Beeston, all by himself, rattling around in the big empty lighthouse. Footsteps echoing with emptiness whenever he climbed up and down the stone spiral stairs. Sitting alone, looking out at the sea, watching the light. What kind of life was that? What kind of person could live that life? And why hadn't the light come back on? Dark questions followed me home. By the time I reached the pier, it was nearly morning. Shivering, I pulled myself up the rope ladder. I snuck back onto the boat and hung my jacket near the stove. It would be dry by morning. Mom likes the place to be like a sauna at night. As I crept into bed, I thanked the lucky stars on my ceiling that I'd gotten home with my secret still safe. For now. Okay, good deal.